Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm thrilled to have you here for another Deep Dive Explainer. Today, we're unpacking episode 294, Bedtime and the AI Privacy and Security Weekly Update for the week ending June 2nd, 2026. Look, we are staring down a rapidly shifting landscape right now when it comes to artificial intelligence, your digital privacy, and global security. We've got a massive amount of ground to cover today, synthesizing 19 major stories that range from the microscopic code running in your browser all the way down to cables sitting at the bottom of the ocean. So grab your coffee, get comfortable, and let's jump right into the source material.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how technology writer Marcus Brinsa frames our current AI dilemma. He recently published this fascinating piece about the growing trend of using AI models to fact-check other AI models, and he equates it to literally letting children decide their own bedtime. Why? Well, because the exact same system that's generating the mistakes is being asked to identify them. The core issue here is that when one AI model enthusiastically validates another, it's so easy for us to mistake that agreement for accuracy. But confidence isn't correctness. Because these systems share similar training data and similar blind spots, outsourcing our trust to another algorithm is incredibly risky. Honestly, the most undervalued skill in your organization right now might just be picking up the phone and calling a real human expert.
To make sense of all these developments, we're going to follow a structured roadmap today. I call it the ripple effect. We'll start with the AI trust paradox, move into the vulnerability arms race, then securing the digital perimeter, guarding critical global infrastructure, and finally, human factors and markets. Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1, the AI trust paradox, cost and consequence. We are learning very quickly that leaning too heavily on automated intelligence has immediate, real-world impacts, not just on our security, but directly on our wallets.
$200. That's the new monthly subscription cost for the GitHub Copilot Max tier. And man, it is causing absolute sticker shock across the developer community right now. GitHub recently shifted from a request-based billing system over to a usage-based model. And what's happening is that users who rely on the auto mode are finding that their simple, everyday coding queries are silently being routed to massive, hyper-expensive frontier models, like OpenAI's GPT 5.5. So people are burning through their 20,000 monthly credits, which equals $200, in a matter of hours. The era of the AI productivity free lunch, it's officially over. If you or your team are managing Copilot at scale, you suddenly have a very urgent budget conversation on your hands.
But the cost of misplaced trust isn't just financial, right? Just recently, hackers managed to seize some incredibly high-profile Instagram accounts. We're talking accounts connected to the Obama White House and major global brands. And no, they didn't do this with some crazy sophisticated technical exploit. They did it by socially engineering Meta's AI-powered support bot. Attackers use prompt injection, sometimes masking their locations with VPNs, to basically sweet-talk the chatbot into changing email addresses and triggering password resets. Meta fixed the issue and secured the accounts, but the upshot here is crystal clear. The scariest vulnerability in your tech stack might just be an AI assistant that has admin privileges, but absolutely zero common sense. If your AI can reset accounts, it can be played.
Moving right along to Section 2, the vulnerability arms race, offense versus defense. AI isn't just a target anymore. It's radically accelerating the speed at which flaws are found.
And this brilliantly illustrates the crazy dynamic we're dealing with. On the defense side, Anthropic's Project Glasswing used their new AI system Claude Mythos to uncover over 10,000 high and critical severity flaws in widely used software. That is a total triage revolution. But contrast that with the offense side. The data shows that the median time it takes an enterprise to actually patch a critical vulnerability has widened to 43 days. Meanwhile, attackers are using AI to weaponize those vulnerabilities on the exact same day they drop. This isn't just a vulnerability management issue anymore, it's a literal physics problem. If your patch cadence is measured in weeks, but your attack surface is measured in hours, the math simply doesn't work.
To show you just how real this race is, let's look at two active threats happening right now. First, if you use Drupal with a Postgres database, you need to patch CVE-2026-9082 immediately. Imperva has already tracked over 15,000 unauthenticated SQL injection attacks on this. Second, Aikido Security uncovered a massive credential-stealing worm called Miasma hidden in official Red Hat Cloud Services NPM packages. If you've run an NPM install on those affected packages since June 1st, consider your CI/CD pipeline completely compromised. The pre-install script acts like a giant vacuum for credentials across AWS, Azure, and GCP. You've got to rotate all your secrets today.
Section 3, securing the digital perimeter, the new local. With threats moving at this breakneck speed, that traditional enterprise perimeter we used to rely on is just gone. The new perimeter is your local environment and your personal device.
Here's a terrifying example of how localized these threats have become. Researchers discovered a new side-channel attack called Frost. Basically, this is a technique where a malicious website runs JavaScript to interact with your browser's origin private file system. In plain English, it measures the microscopic delays and vibrations of your hard drive while it works. By running those precise timings through a neural network, an attacker can figure out exactly what other tabs, websites, and applications you have open on your machine. All you have to do is accidentally visit the wrong web page. There are no permission dialogues and no downloads required. It's wild.
Which obviously begs the question, is your browser sandbox really safe? The hard truth we're learning from Frost is that the sandbox is a performance isolation boundary, not a perfect privacy guarantee. Your physical hard drive has no idea what the difference is between a legitimate read request and an attacker using JavaScript to listen to its heartbeat.
Thankfully, defenders are pushing the perimeter back. Google has made device-bound session credentials generally available in Chrome for Windows. This effectively locks your session cookie to the specific device where the login actually occurred, so a stolen cookie is now about as worthless as a hotel keycard after you've already checked out. Meanwhile, Microsoft Defender is previewing automatic device isolation. If ransomware is detected trying to move laterally, Defender can automatically sever that machine from the network before a human analyst even reads the alert. Because, let's face it, speed is the only way to fight speed.
Let's move to and see how this builds into Section 4, Guarding Critical Global Infrastructure, the macro view. Because these tools we just talked about have absolutely caught the attention of global superpowers.
Governments are stepping in aggressively, and we're seeing some very different approaches unfold simultaneously. Over in the US, President Trump recently signed an executive order asking AI companies to voluntarily provide the federal government with a 30-day preview of frontier models, just to assess their cyber capabilities. And across the Atlantic, Anthropic has formally invited the European Commission and the EU Cyber Agency, ENISA, to access its powerful Mythos hacking tool to help the EU prepare its own emergency action plans. This is a real-time geopolitical shift, folks. Your AI vendors' release notes? Yeah, those are matters of national security now. Government oversight isn't a question of if, it's just a question of how fast.
And speaking of global infrastructure, keep the number 570 in your head. That is the number of subsea cables currently resting on the ocean floor that carry up to 99% of global intercontinental data. Almost every single email you send or video you stream travels across these unguarded lines. Just recently, the AUKUS nations, the US, UK, and Australia, announced plans to develop unmanned submarine drones to protect these cables. Defense officials are seeing these critical digital arteries being targeted and surveyed at historically unprecedented rates right now. We always think of the internet as this invisible cloud, but its real physical layer is sitting out there at the bottom of the ocean. Now, to power all this digital and physical infrastructure, energy demands are just skyrocketing, and that's led to a pretty wild geopolitical pivot. The U.S. Department of Energy is currently negotiating to give over 50 tons of surplus Cold War weapons-grade plutonium to private nuclear startups like Oklo and Nucleo to solve reactor fuel shortages. It's an incredible story of turning swords into plowshares, but as you can imagine, non-proliferation experts are deeply alarmed by this. Handing weapons-grade material over to private companies is a security and transport challenge that is almost impossible to overstate.
All right, Section 5, Human Factors and Markets, the people behind the tech. Because for all this talk of quantum computing, AI, and subsea drones, we can never forget the human behaviors and the market forces that actually drive all of this.
Let me tell you a quick story about human behavior. A United Airlines flight going from Newark to Spain recently had to turn all the way around and endure a 9.5-hour delay. I'm talking a full evacuation, dogs, cargo inspection, the whole shebang. The reason? A teenager on board decided to name their personal Bluetooth speaker the 4-letter word for an explosive device. Passengers noted that this little joke ruined the trip for hundreds of people. But it's actually a profound security lesson for us. Intent does not matter nearly as much as the signal. Every single system out there, whether it's human or automated, is calibrated to treat ambiguous signals as real threats.
Speaking of the human element, there's been this massive narrative going around that AI is destroying the job market for recent college grads. But data from the New York Fed tells a totally different story. So the crucial point is that graduate unemployment actually spiked 20% post-pandemic, not because of AI, but because of remote work. Companies are simply refusing to hire junior employees because managers are finding it way too difficult to train and mentor them over Zoom. It turns out, remote-first culture might quietly be pulling up the career ladder for an entire generation.
And what about the markets? For months, analysts were warning of a SaaSpocalypse. This idea that AI vibe coding would completely destroy traditional software companies because, hey,
Anyone could build an app in a few minutes, right? Yet May 2026 ended up being the best month for software stocks since 2001. Okta jumped 30%, Atlassian up 26%, Snowflake surged 50%. Why did this happen? Because enterprises quickly realized that a product's moat isn't just its code. It's the trust, the deep security integrations, and the existing platform inertia. You can vibe code a quick prototype for sure, but you absolutely cannot vibe code enterprise trust.
Look no further than Anthropic's unbelievable timeline for proof of exactly where the market's head is at right now. In April, they unveiled their Mythos security tool. By May, they report a massive $47 billion revenue run rate. And now, in June, they have confidentially filed an IPO prospectus at an absolutely astounding $965 billion valuation, topping OpenAI. In less than a decade, they managed to turn AI safety into a near trillion-dollar Wall Street pitch.
And finally, as we seek out trust in this totally AI-saturated world, researchers at ETH Zurich just made a massive breakthrough. You see, cryptography's dirty little secret is that computer-generated random numbers aren't actually truly random. They are just really hard to predict. But ETH Zurich used entangled superconducting chips separated by a 30-meter cooled quantum link to generate certified perfect randomness. They call it randomness amplification. These numbers are proven unpredictable by the laws of physics themselves. This is effectively the atomic clock for the zero-trust era. It's a foundational layer of absolute truth that no AI on Earth can outcalculate. Which leaves us with this final thought for the day. We are navigating a landscape defined by trillion-dollar algorithms, automated vulnerability wars, and quantum physics securing our data. So, in a world perfectly engineered by AI and physics, where does human intuition actually fit in? How do we ensure our distinctly human judgment isn't lost in the automation? Think on that this week. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep asking the hard questions, keep learning, and I will see you on the next one.